I'm obviously not Sarah. I'm Jessica, and it's a pleasure to see you guys.
Nice to see you too, Jessica. You're going to do a great job. Don't be nervous.
I'm a little
Trying to
nervous.
keep the two of us, trying to keep the two of us in line. Good luck.
Hey, is
I
this
have
thing
big
on?
shoes to fill.
You do. That you do. No pressure.
So how's everyone's week going so far? I think we're in Thursday now.
Michael?
Yeah, yeah. Actually, what you just said speaks to exactly how this week has been. I think it's Thursday. It's been rough. So, how have you guys been?
It's been good. I had a crazy week. I was in LA. Where else was I this week? I was somewhere else. I don't even remember anymore. I was in a few different places this week, but it's good. Good week. Busy, busy.
So well traveled.
Your frequent flyer miles
Exactly.
must be crazy.
Yes. Yes, they are.
He actually
Speaking
won't
of,
let me get him any Delta gift cards because he wants to get the MQDs.
honestly, full respect on that part. If you don't
I
have
already have
status,
enough
what's the
MQDs
point?
for the year. What are you believing his stories for? Plus, Mike doesn't have to worry about status because he flies private. So for him, this is like, you know, this is old Mike. 10 years ago, Mike,
Ah,
when he was chasing MQDs. Now it's like MQDs are for, simple people like me, not for fancy guys like him.
this is a status of itself.
Which one? The private?
Yeah, yeah.
So Jessica, you know how you made it? When he doesn't just fly private, he'll only fly on his own plane. So he won't be like, oh, we'll just charter, we'll go together. It's like, no, it's not mine. I don't go.
You know,
Does he
I
have a
like
sticker
this.
on the?
You're speaking it into existence. This is great. Full disclaimer to everyone: I don't have a private jet. I don't fly private. But we're putting it out there now.
I'm sorry.
Should
I'm
we
not. I'm not supposed to tell your secrets.
should we switch the topics to manifestation?
I love it.
We should talk about that. Although you should just know the tail number of the plane he insisted had an MK in it, which was pretty unique.
Yeah, yeah. And the numbers 6 and 9, not in any order.
I thought it was 18.
All right, moving on.
Well,
Moving on from Mike's private plane and my being stuck trying to chase status.
and we're moving on to Dubai. So,
Let's
Oof.
do
uh,
Dubai.
Habibi, come to
Baby,
Dubai.
what's in Dubai?
well, apparently, Benjamin Netanyahu, the Prime Minister of Israel, was recently in the United Arab Emirates, according to the Israeli government. However, President of the UAE, Mohammed bin Zayed Al Nahyan, stated that there was no secret meeting with Prime Minister Netanyahu, and that there was no Israeli delegation that visited the United Arab Emirates recently. So, at a time when tensions continue to rise across the region, could growing cooperation between countries like Israel and the UAE actually represent a path towards greater stability, diplomacy, and a long term peace in the Middle East? And why do you think that there are two conflicting stories between these two leaders?
Which one of us you want to go first? You got to tell us.
Yeah, we need guidance here, Jessica.
I'll pick on
Yeah, we're not
Mike.
smart.
Oof.
There you go.
Okay. I was hoping Shaya started off. All right. So, I mean, I am the conspiracy theorist of the group here. Okay.
He is. He is. If anyone can come up with a conspiracy, it's this guy.
So I mean, this is like some political like mind bending game that's going on right now, right? Like, so Israel, Netanyahu says we were there. UAE's like, no, you weren't. So like now, I'm just like, all right, who's telling the truth, right? And Shia knows who I blame first right away. So I'm more inclined to believe that um that Netanyahu didn't actually go there, right? But then you look at it and you're like, okay, well, UAE's been having these partnerships. They just got like access to the Iron Dome technology and the beam and all that stuff. So maybe now UAE is trying to play a little bit of their own kind of let's see how far we can take this kind of game. So I could tell you why I think that they don't want to, don't want that information out there. UAE is a very small country that can get obliterated rather quickly, especially with its closest enemy. Well, enemy. Iran, not too far away, just a rock skip away. Um, so I could see why they wouldn't want that out there for their own protection, and also just for like the overall kind of like sentiment of Arabs in the Middle East and how they feel about Israel. Even though UAE and Israel are getting closer in terms of like their diplomacy and working together in order to stop this like regional foe. Um, so I think that the reason why it's kind of being kept secretive is for UAE's protection for them and their existence. But I could also see that Benjamin Netanyahu, if this meeting did happen, why he would want to boast it to show like, hey, we are making efforts in in our diplomatic relationship, and we're making headways and whatnot. So that's all I got. Just a lot of word salad, but I really don't know what to believe. Shia, what do you think?
So I think he was definitely there. I have a much more definitive position on this. I think that he was definitely there. There's not a question. I think there is a ton that goes on behind the scenes between leaderships and governments that don't necessarily speak to the domestic policies of the country. So they may need to say something, to their electorate, but in reality, behind the scenes, they do what's in the country's best interest. I think there's so much. The fact that there was an Iron Dome delivered there it's the first time the Iron Dome's been taken outside of Israel, outside of the U.S. Right. So it's a huge development, and I think that I know definitively there is a ton going on between a lot of the Arab countries in Israel. And I think they say things like this as like a trial balloon where it's socially maybe unacceptable, but then it makes it socially acceptable. And I think that the next shoe to drop is going to be Saudi Arabia, Kuwait, maybe Qatar, Oman. There's a lot of countries that are going to join the Abraham Accords. And I think this is that trial balloon where it becomes socially acceptable that they met. I think they kind of set the table with their domestic politics before they make these big announcements. I think you saw that with the Abraham Accords, where it was like they were doing a lot of business, but they didn't have a peace agreement. They had this kind of business relationship, and then they had weapons agreements, and then it got to the Abraham Accords. So I think he was definitely there. I think there's a lot going on between behind the scenes and really kind of publicly. I mean, there are more kosher restaurants in Dubai than there are in Michigan. Um, like they allow Israelis in, a lot of Arab countries don't. They cater to the Jews from Israel. And I think that we're going to see, I think this whole war has created an opportunity for the Abraham Accords to really expand between the moderate Arab countries. I think they all found the common enemy in Iran. I'm still not sure strategically what Iran was thinking going after all of these countries. I think it was a huge strategic mistake. And I think what they've done is they've successfully driven the other Arab countries to partner with Israel.
Yeah, silver lining, right?
Yeah. Yeah. I think it's going to reshape the Middle East for generations. I really do.
What country do you think would be next in joining the Abraham Accords after the recent conflict?
I think Azerbaijan actually is going to formally join soon. They already have a relationship with Israel. They do a lot. Jessica, you know a thing or two about that country, don't you?
Just a few things.
Jessica's from Azerbaijan, Michael.
Okay. All right. I was wondering where that was going. That's awesome.
Yeah, so they already have relationship with Israel. They do a lot business wise. Weapons, Israel provides them a lot of their weapons. They're very friendly to Israelis, and I think they just haven't formalized it. I think they're going to be next. I have a kind of one that's out there that I don't think anyone would expect me to say that I think is going to be the next one to fall, and I think that's going to be Lebanon and Syria. I think the Lebanese, is kind of similar along the lines we were discussing before. I think Hezbollah is isolated. I think the Lebanese people want to be done with Hezbollah. I think the whole they're protecting Lebanon from Israel myth has just disappeared. I think the average person in Lebanon just doesn't want Hezbollah there anymore. The fact that there's a militia outside the government um, that's dictating terms allegedly to protect them from this invasion. I think the Lebanese people aren't falling for it anymore, and I think Lebanon and Syria are going to be the next two, and then Saudi Arabia. So it's a pretty exciting time in the Middle East today. I know. When you're in the day to day, you don't see it because you just hear all the bad things. But behind the scenes, there are a lot of developments now, and I think it's going to be a great change for the future.
Yeah. You forgot to mention that Hezbollah is fighting under a different flag than the Lebanese flag. So people are
Literally,
starting
it's
to
it's
realize.
Yeah, actually, I have a friend who's there now, and she is Muslim, and she told me she's in Beirut, and she said like the streets are so against Hezbollah and pro-Israel. She said in her whole life she's never seen anything like it. She's like, literally, like the people on the street are just like begging Israel to finish Hezbollah off, which is such a crazy change from where we were 5 years ago. She literally said like the local Lebanese citizens are contacting the Israelis to notify them where the Hezbollah people are hiding,
That's
which is
huge.
like something. Yeah, it's crazy, and she's there on the ground. She's there right now with her family. She lives there.
So tying that to a recent complaint done in the ICC by a Palestinian against Hamas, that was the first in its nature that a Palestinian formalized and filed a complaint against Hamas. What do you think about that? And I'll start with Shaya.
Yeah, this to me is something that I never thought I would see in my lifetime. So a Palestinian filed a complaint against Hamas in the international court. I know there's been a lot against Israel and Israel against Hamas. You know, you see that back and forth, but this is the first actual Palestinian to do it against Hamas, saying Hamas caused this to happen to our people. And again, I think this speaks to what we were discussing before. I think you're starting to see a huge shift in the public feelings about the extremists. And I know we have some other topics that address extremism later on today, but I think there's been a really huge shift. I think as Mike said, the silver lining in all of the death and destruction that's happened over the last couple of years is that people are to the point where they see who are the bad guys and who are the good guys, particularly people on the ground. You know, here you have people marching down the street supporting, free this and free that, but they don't even understand that the people there don't want those people anymore. It's like you're marching to LGBTQ for Hamas, right? But you don't realize that the people in Gaza don't want Hamas. It's like you're supporting a terrorist organization that the local people don't want anymore. Right? Marching for Hezbollah when the Lebanese citizens don't want Hezbollah is asinine. So I think this is one of those things that like another big brick or building block in what's going to be a very, very, very rapidly changing for the better Middle East.
For
And how
sure.
do you,
Um,
and
oh,
go ahead, Mike. This is your show.
sorry. No, you're leading us here. You're the jockey here. Um, I think that that's awesome. There was a time, and Shia said, never thought you'd see this in your lifetime. There's a time where if you speak up, like you're risking your life, your family's life,
Yeah.
your entire line. Um, so this is huge. It shows the shift, and kind of, I don't want to say the necessity of everything that happened, but it's good that people are starting to see it. So I guess better late than never, because who knows how much worse it could have gotten. But hopefully this is the first step of many leading in the right direction.
Yeah, and Mike, it's like when you think about it, like this is where we always say like having information and being educated about a topic before taking a position is so important. Kind of like what we do with 10 to 2 Brothers is like there are people marching through the streets supporting an organization that the people on the ground don't want. It's like you're marching to support Hamas when the people in Gaza are saying we're suing Hamas in the International Criminal Court because we blame them for what happened. It's like there's a Hebrew saying "vinahapachu," which means like the world is backwards. It's like the world is upside down. It's like how have they gotten people to support them when the citizens themselves are against them? The same thing with Hezbollah. But I think it's going to be for the better. I'm very hopeful it's going to be for the better, and I think there's an opportunity now that we haven't seen in generations.
How do you think that would affect the protests and the language that's happening in the Western world, specifically on college campuses, that finally that there's a Palestinian speaking out against Hamas when there's so many protests on college campuses here in the United States in support of Hamas?
Mike or me?
I think you take it from here, Shia.
Again, I think it speaks to the same thing. I think you know how like you see all these online podcasters, and in order for them to stay relevant, they have to come out with the next biggest scandal, the next biggest scandal. And I think it was Joe Rogan who said on one of his podcasts, like, that's good for a flash, you make money, but to stay consistent, you have to always have the next biggest thing, right? So like Bridget McCrone can only be a man once, right? Like the guy who killed Charlie Kirk can only not be the guy who killed Charlie Kirk once. Like you have to keep coming up with the next large conspiracy in order to continue getting clicks. So it's it's hard to do that consistently, right? So I think it's the same thing with the college protests. I think there was this topic that like there was all this misinformation and all this, you know, false false things flying around. People thought we're protesting for this cause that we are so passionate about. And then you start seeing like, hold on a second, the people we're protesting for are hated by their own people and they want them out. And you also start seeing these trends online where people are just getting embarrassed at these protests. Where it's like, hey, what do you think when you say from the river to the sea? Which river? What sea? When you say genocide, like or apartheid or occupation, do you know that Egypt also shares a border with Gaza? And people are just so misinformed and lack so much knowledge, and they're so passionate about a topic that they don't know that they don't know anything about. And I think you're going to start seeing over time that the same people who are protesting about that. I think I saw a video the other day. It was the same people protesting about Iran, Venezuela, no kings, and Palestine.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, you're very passionate about a lot of topics to be out there protesting for all of those things. So the answer to your question, the short answer to my really long spiel here is I think that as the truth, as there's a light on truth, the lies will disappear.
Well, let's hope so. Pivoting to something I'm very passionate about is the Chaldean Christian community and the Jewish communities and their relations with each other. Growing up in West Bloomfield, most of my close friends are actually Chaldean, and I am from the Jewish community. And our shared understanding and background has really developed into um, a coalition between the two communities, but also bridge building and a shared understanding of each other's histories. So, saying all that, uh, for centuries, Iraq was home to thriving Chaldean Christian and Jewish communities that played a major role in the region's cultural, business, education, and history. Over time, war, extremism, persecution, and political instability forced many of these communities to flee their homeland. Today, so much of the conversation surrounding the Middle East focuses only on the conflict and division. But why is it also important to talk about the region's diversity, the communities that help shape it, and the role greater understanding coexistence can play in building long-term peace in the Middle East? I'll start with Mike on this one.
Yeah.
From the Jewish community to the Chaldean community.
I love it. Love it. So I like you, grew up in an area where Jews and Chaldeans lived together. Um, not as upscale as was Bloomfield like you did, but in a humble beginning in Oak Park. But going back to where my father grew up in Baghdad in the district, it was called Betaween. And Betaween was known as a very like Jewish community back in the 30s and 40s and 50s, all like leading into the Farhud and eventually the displacement and um, kicking out all the Jews from the country. So a lot of my dad's history that he shared with me had to do with even the people that they were renting their home from when he was just a kid were Jewish people. They owned the house that my dad grew up in, and he remembers when this happened when they were leaving. They were selling all of their properties because you were leaving with nothing, right? At this point, if you were Jewish, they were selling things for like 90% off. So the house was sold for like $500 back then. And I know my dad always saying like anyone who got that from them, they came up in value so fast just because people were desperate to get rid of things. So a lot of like shift in wealth happened at that time, right? So now fast forward to me growing up in Oak Park and being so close to Jews, being right next to them, but also so far away at the same time, right? Um, because you're raised differently, and Jewish people there were going to the Jewish schools and things like that. So it was always separate. I think in West Bloomfield, it was if you went to West Bloomfield High, you had a very high likelihood of having classes with other Jewish kids. Whereas in Oak Park, it was either the Jewish the school and the temple or whatever it was, but very rarely in the public schools where we went. But I do see in West Bloomfield a lot of mesh and a lot of mix of Chaldeans and Jews. My mom's uncle is actually was married to a Jewish woman, so I've got a Jewish cousin somewhere, that I haven't seen in like 30 years. But it's cool to have like this kind of history, and especially where we come from, before Islam came around, over almost 1,500 years ago. Iraq was thriving with Chaldean, Assyrian, Jewish communities. You know, I don't know about Sumerians and Akkadians. I think that was way before that. But there were no issues back then. Even though I will say that maybe Chaldeans might be the reason why the Jews were there to begin with. I think we, in the BC years, in the 600 BC, we kicked a lot of them out into what was Mesopotamia. So I really love talking about this, and especially me being Chaldean, Shaya being Jewish, and we're able to like figure out so many seed problems, diagnose them, and think of solutions, and just kind of on a small scale, and eventually on a huge scale, be able to bring people together and just show like we're so alike. It's crazy the amount of differences. You can count them on one hand. We're so much more alike in more ways than we know it, and to take people that have not experienced that other person, and putting them in a room together, really like it's like a turn on for me just to kind of see it, see that relationship happen and blossom right in front of my eyes.
Yeah, I'll second that. I think so. Two things. Getting back to the actual in Iraq, we'll start with that, and I'll kind of bring it to modern day, like Mike did. So, look, there's no question that historically the Jews and the Chaldeans, pre-Muslim takeover of Iraq, were not just neighbors and friends. Like they were in the same villages. They grew up together. I have a Chaldean friend, and she told me her mom was the Shabbat goy. So on Saturday, she would go into the Jewish houses and do the things they couldn't do on Saturday, and this was like socially acceptable, and they all got along. So it's interesting that Mike and I became so close. We became so close, all these years later. And you see, he says, we have the differences he count on one hand. I don't even think I could count any differences. Um, it's like it literally feels half the time like I'm talking to myself. And just today we had a conversation, and the way we talk, I think most people would just be like, okay, these guys are either twin brothers or something's wrong.
Yeah.
And really the most amazing thing, and I think this gets back to bringing people together, is the other night we were at a basketball game together, and I brought a bunch of people, Mike brought a bunch of people, and they walk in and they all know each other, and they're all friends with each other, and they all get along. Many of them are doing business together when they need something that, both of our communities have our strengths and weaknesses, and all of a sudden we're able to utilize those strengths to pair together, and it's all because the two of us became friends. And over this period of time, you start seeing it's not just, oh, hey, let me introduce you to so and so. They're the people we've all introduced have become friends, and they've introduced people to become friends. Mike, I just found out that Nick did a podcast with a guy I don't even know because he told him he was on a trip with me.
Well, that's great. Nick is my
Well, he was like,
father-in-law, by the way, Jessica.
yeah, sorry, Nick went with us on a trip, and then Nick did a podcast with a Jewish guy because the guy mentioned he knew him. It was like all of a sudden you start bringing all these people together, and you see how easy it is. Like you think in the beginning, oh, two of us are going to become friends. It won't affect that many people. It'll affect the two of us and maybe our families or immediate. And you see, like the ripple effect is real. And you throw a rock into a water, and it kind of spreads. And that's really, really what's happened from one racist comment that Mike made at a basketball game all these years ago. And from that comment, we now have so many, our circles have gotten so broad, and so many people are doing so much together. So I don't want to say his racist comment paid off, but it kind of
Can
did,
we change that from racist comment to stereotypically correct?
if it makes you feel better.
Thank you. Yeah, we'll take that.
Should we go into what that comment was? No, I'm kidding.
Yeah, I think
Sarah's
actually,
been
Mike,
trying. Sarah's been trying for
Mike,
a long time. We can't just let
I
Jessica get it.
say, I say we do it while she's gone, and see if she listens to this episode while
Oh,
she's
that'd be
out.
great. That'd be great.
And none of us say a word, and we release the story, and we're gonna see if Sarah comes back and say, "I can't believe you guys did that with me out." What do you think?
Okay. I like that. I will say, if she is listening, Sarah, don't mention it until the next podcast.
Oh, that would be well played. If she doesn't bring it up until, yes, smart. Natasha, when is this one being released? Okay, perfect. So when is Sarah back? When's our next one? Okay, perfect.
Yeah, it's good
So
timing.
she will have ample opportunity to listen to this, and we will see if she does, if she brings it up. So no one can say anything, and we'll see if she brings it up on the next episode. How's that?
That's great. That's good
That
with
works
me.
for me.
Okay.
A historic
All right.
So
So now I'll
Jessica,
tell the story.
Oh, perfect. Yeah, I've always wanted to hear your version of it, so let's hear it.
Yeah, I'm going to tell a story because Mike waters it down. So, Jessica, Mike and I sit next to each other at the game for a very long period of time. And let's
Wait,
just
where are
say
the
our
seats? That's very
personality,
important.
well, Mike will only sit if his feet are touching wood in row one. Otherwise, he won't go. I'll go to the upper
I
bowl. I
like you,
just enjoy
Mike.
the game. Yeah,
Yeah, I won them in a raffle.
Mike will only go if his feet are touching wood. I have to sneak down. You know, you got to bribe the usher. You got to know a guy. All these other things to get there. But Mike, he's always there.
For
So I'm
sure. Work
lucky
your
enough to
charm.
have the privilege to sit in row one next to him on a few occasions. And we're talking. What happened was actually we never talk. So what happened was I'm sitting next to this guy, and let's just say Mike comes to the game, and he gets very happy from before the game starts till about halfway through, and then by then he's usually either getting kicked out or heading for the exit before they kick him out because he'll only sit right next to the bench where he can talk to the players. Because if he's not, again, if his feet are not touching wood, he won't go to the game. He'll just say it's not for me.
Yeah,
So his
and I don't
feet
want to
have to
have to
be touching
yell,
wood.
so I need to be right by them too.
Yeah, he needs to be right there. So we
Mike
are
has
we
standards.
sit next to each other for he does very high standards. I'm trying to live up to them. So we're sitting next to each other for an extended period of time. We don't really talk much. You know, I'm a fairly quiet guy. I drink my bottle of water. Mike likes his vodka cranberries very, very much. And that's a whole nother story about the time with the vodka cranberry, but we'll save it for another episode. That was actually in Madison Square Garden. But I'm sitting next to this guy. We don't really talk. He ignores me because he's with all his cool friends wearing their fancy clothes and their brands. And I'm just like, you know, the nerdy guy next to him, right? So they kind of leave me out of all their fun conversations. And the Pistons were playing a team, and they had an Israeli player on the other team. And I don't remember if I got into an argument with him about politics. We were arguing in Hebrew. I said something in Hebrew. I'm not sure exactly. And Mike turns to me and says, "Hey, I got a question for you." And mind you, this is like the first thing this guy ever says to me. He says, "Are you Jewish?" And I was taken aback. You know, you never know nowadays. And, you know, also like he looks Middle Eastern, so you don't really know where he stands on a lot of different issues. Hard to tell. They all, you know, people look alike from
So
that
based on
region.
how I looked, you thought what?
I thought that you may not like me. It was a
I'm just making
combination
sure.
of how it's the combination of you ignored me for such an extended period of time, and then all of a sudden, just pow, first thing out of your mouth, you know. So I was nervous. Nowadays, I was nervous, and I said, "Well, yeah, why?" And he said, "Because my tickets are up for renewal, and you probably got a better deal, and therefore, I need to know what you paid so I can negotiate a better price." First thing, Jessica, who says that as the first thing to this nice
Bold.
guy who you've ignored for a year?
But was he right?
So well, of course I got a better deal, but that wasn't the point. The point was that I responded with, "Hold on a second, you're Chaldean, right?" And he said, "Yeah, how do I know he's Chaldean?" Because he's always saying, "Oh, my cousin's sitting here, my cousin's sitting there," and they're all in, you know, row one on the floor. And I said, "You're Chaldean, right? We both know
I
you."
thought we never spoke before. How did you know my cousin
No,
sat
you're
there?
always talking to your cousin. You're always, "Hey,
Okay,
Habibi, my cousin." I was listening. I wasn't included in the conversation, but I like to
okay,
listen. You know,
okay.
maybe one day I'll get in the circle with the cool kids. And so I say back to him, "Jessica, hold on, aren't you Chaldean?" He says, "Yeah." I said, "We both know you paid with a bag of cash, so no one got a better deal than you." And literally, that's how we became best friends.
Yeah, yeah.
Anything you'd
Good for
like
you.
to add, Michael?
No, yeah, yeah. You got most of the details right. And I will say he was wrong. I didn't pay with a bag of cash, but I certainly paid more than he did.
Was it half cash? And the bag was definitely a Louis Vuitton. He didn't just show up with a simple duffel bag. It said Louis Vuitton all over it.
But look at you guys turning something that
So,
could have been a negative
s-
into a positive.
Thank
for
you.
sure,
Yes,
for
I
sure.
could have had such a bad reaction, and instead I didn't. Even though at first I
Yeah.
was really hurt.
And I will say for as many times as I've been out and about with Shaya, he normally does have a bad reaction to people. So he like purposely will make sure that a friendship doesn't come into fruition. So
Sure.
I'm glad he was feeling good that day because look at us now. Um, and I like that this came up during while we're talking about Iraq. Two of the biggest parts of Iraq's history are in what are today's minorities, right? Which weren't a minority back then. Um, but we're not just side notes in Iraq's history. We wrote the story there.
That's true.
And it's huge. You know, there's a saying in a Iraqi song. They say "Kitabna al-Tarikh," which means that we've written the history. So just Iraqis in general know, because that's the cradle of civilization. That's where it all started. And I'm proud to have ancestry and lineage that dates back to that. And same with Shaya.
Yeah, I think it's on a serious note. A lot of people don't know history, and both Mike and I are very big. We both study history a lot. We both read history. We both love history. We talk a lot about history together, and it's pretty crazy to think that you know 75 years ago, maybe 80 years ago, right, or maybe a little more, the Jews were kicked out of Iraq, and then the Chaldeans were kicked out of Iraq, and now all of a sudden we're bringing all these Jews and Chaldeans together here where our grandparents were bringing them together there, and it's pretty unique in how it happened because it wasn't we didn't go to school together. He grew up in Oak Park, I grew up in Oak Park, but again, I grew up on the kind of the nerdier, poorer side of the tracks. He was on the wealthier, cooler side, and they were, we never our paths never crossed, even though we were less than a 3-minute walk from each other, 5-minute walk from each other. We were very, very close, but we never met. And for us to meet later on and now to have all these people impacted by the fact that we've become friends, it's really something special.
It's almost like we say Bashir it. It's supposed to happen.
Exactly. Yep.
One of my favorite things
Yeah.
about the Chaldean communities that Chaldeans are mentioned in Genesis. I think that is one of
They are.
the coolest facts that exists, because it's our holiest book, and here we are, two communities still together, even from back in those days to now. Um, do you think that there is a chance for this same bond and friendship that you guys have to continue on in other parts of the Middle East?
Which, Mike, you want to take this one first?
Yeah, I think so. We have a trip planned actually to Ethiopia, which I think geographically it's the Middle East. It's not an Arabic country, but it's the Middle East. And I think when you are a minority, you understand minorities so much better. Um, and whether it's color, country that you're from, whatever it is, religion. We just kind of understand, the whole put your head down and just move forward mentality. So I do think it'll translate into other communities, other places around the world. This isn't just Chaldeans and Jews, and now, there's 15 million Jewish people in the world. There's like a million Chaldeans. So we're not doing this just for 16 million people. We're trying to do this on a way bigger scale. So I think we definitely understand um, what it takes. And if we want peace, we have to go and hear other people's stories. We can't build respect for these communities if we don't know anything about them. So and
Yeah,
we
I
are putting our foot forward and going to learn about these communities.
I think just, and this circles back to what I was saying before. I think that there's a new horizon, new Middle East. I think you're starting to see the extremists on both sides have driven the people in the middle closer together. Um, Mike and I are doing a lot to further the relationship with the Black community. We're both involved heavily in prison reform, something that's very important to their community. Many of them are now coming out in support of things that are important to us, traveling to Israel, supporting Jews, fighting back against anti-Semitism. We talk all the time about how today is the Jews, tomorrow is the Chaldeans, next day it's the Blacks, minorities. To Mike's point, historically, you know what's coming next. So for us to band together is critical against extremists from all sides. But I think to your specific question, I think that the answer is I don't think a definitive yes. I think you're starting to find more and more people. Yes, you have a very vocal minority. Yes, they make a lot of noise, but I think you're starting to find more and more people reject that and come together. And I think you see very quickly how giving people a path to come together, a lot of people will seize the opportunity. Many people don't feel that they could approach someone from a different culture. Many people, like we have our prison reform nonprofit that we've helped a lot of Black people in many different ways, and all of a sudden they're comfortable to come have a conversation. Whereas before it's like, oh, there's this white guy in a suit, I'm not going to walk over to him. And now all of a sudden I'm walking down the street and someone comes to me, hey, I saw that you helped so and so get out of prison. I have a family member affected by that. Can you help me too? And it's something that they would have never been comfortable doing before because why would they think that I would care? But now that they see that we are passionate about helping other communities and not just our own, it's brought together so many diverse people and is continuing to grow.
Beautifully said. Before we switch topics, unless Mike has something to add, um, one other piece of
Floor is
news is
yours.
that, thank you. The state of Michigan officially signed legislation designating that May is Chaldean American Month. So happy Chaldean American Month to you, Mike, and the Chaldean community.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Exactly. But Jessica, you know what's ironic?
What's ironic?
Complete coincidence. I think also in May they added the Shabbat or something. I saw Trump did something for Shabbat in May that everyone should try and celebrate a Shabbat. Is that true?
I think I saw that on a news article that everyone should start observing Shabbat. It's good for the mind. It's good for the
Yeah.
the community overall, and not just Jewish people, but
Yeah, which is
everyone.
interesting in the month of May because it kind of goes to the values that our two cultures have, and we're a lot more similar than we are different. But I will stand proudly with my Chaldean brother here during May, and I'm thrilled that the Chaldeans have been recognized.
I love that. And I will also do my best to practice Shabbat. And you wouldn't know anyway because you don't use your phone. So let's just assume that
And
mine is put away.
hold on, Jessica. Let's call him out on this one for a minute here because there's no way in hell he'll make it through a whole Shabbat. So start from the beginning. Mike, when is this Shabbat happening?
Friday at dusk.
Okay, so this Friday at dusk, you're going to actually observe Shabbat.
Yes.
You will not use your phone in any way, shape, or form. So if I have someone come pick up your phone at dusk and take it, you will hand it to them, turn it off, hand it to them. They'll bring it back at dusk Saturday night. You're saying that would happen, right?
So my inner conspiracist won't allow an Israeli to take my phone away from my eyesight.
What about a Chaldean? And just for the record, if I was Israeli, but the Israelis wouldn't need your phone, they could do it remotely. But back to don't flatter yourself.
Only an Israeli would know that.
But with that said, if we can do this Shabbat, I would love for you to do a Shabbat.
Okay. All right. Let's do it. Let's do it.
Okay, so
You
let's
don't
just
have to
go
tell
through
anyone.
the.
Text my wife, have her take it, lock it away. We're good.
Okay, so no TV.
Unless I leave it on. I know the cheat codes here.
He's already got the loopholes. Look at this guy.
He has so many Jewish
Look
friends.
at this guy. You see? Exactly. No, a lot of times we think he might be. We're not sure ourselves, but wow, he's already found the loopholes. All right. So you looked before what channel you want. You can't change the channel though. You can just leave it on.
Yeah. Once it's on, it's on. I got it.
Well, actually, hold on a second. If your wife is not doing it though, she could be your Shabbat goy, and then
You
she can
see?
change it for you.
Exactly.
I think you're giving him too many ideas,
But
Shaya.
I got this.
No, but let me tell you something, Jessica. By the time he's done, he'll have a list of ideas he'll help every person who observes Shabbat in the future get out of doing God knows what. I mean, this guy, by the end of Shabbat, he will have paid someone to build a contraption to do everything he needs. And by him thinking it just happened, so he's not doing it. I promise.
Exactly.
It'll be the best thing to ever happen to people who observe Shabbat is Mike keeping Shabbat once. Because he will make every single person's life easier for the future.
It will be easier for everyone. I guarantee that. But I will say my favorite thing is owning everyone's oh my God, like those Slurpee machines and ice cream machines, and I rent it out to them. So I own like 1,000 different Slurpee and frozen ice machines all over all over the state of Michigan.
You know what's funny? I didn't even know about that until you told me.
Really?
Yeah,
Yeah,
I heard about it. I heard about like concept, but I didn't know that actually happened until you told me.
Yeah, no, it was incredible. It was incredible. I even I sent the Zelle to buy the device, and I put in the note Zelle like I own this machine just in case it ever comes back. That's my binding contract.
I don't know how I feel about that.
That was hilarious. That's hilarious when you told me about that. I did not know that.
Well,
Yeah, no,
speaking from,
I'll do it. I'll do it for 1 week, and then I'll have all the upgraded
Yes.
loopholes for you guys.
all right, I'm waiting on it. Speaking of innovation, and as two businessmen, Howard Schultz, the former CEO of Starbucks, recently criticized Seattle's leadership and warned that rising crime, political extremism, and anti-business policies is making cities like Seattle harder places to operate businesses and attract investment. As more business leaders are to speak out about concerns in major American cities, Are we seeing a larger shift in where companies and entrepreneurs want to build their future?
I'll jump on this one just because I literally just got back from Seattle. I think I was actually reading this morning an article that said that she walked back her comments because Howard Schultz just announced an opening of another corporate office in Nashville, and he's moving 2,000 employees there. So I think that the answer is, and this kind of back to where we started with the whole Dubai and whether Netanyahu was there. I think that politicians need to learn that sometimes you speak to your local electorate because maybe you think that's what they want to hear. And you're going to push a little too far. I think Mamdani did this with Ken Griffin in New York. I think that was a topic that we had last week. And I think that you see in Seattle now that she pushed it too far. And if Starbucks leaves Seattle, it will be devastating for that city. Absolutely devastating. And I think that the mayors need to learn, mayors, governors, politicians in general need to learn that I'm not saying that the wealthy shouldn't give back. I'm not saying companies shouldn't pay their fair share. What I am saying is you should not vilify them for being successful business people. And I feel like is like there's this vilification of people who are successful today, as opposed to saying, you know what, you risked everything, you built this from nothing. Yeah, maybe we want you to pay a little more. Maybe we want you to, help out here or there. And most of them would be receptive to that. But when you feel they feel like they're being punished and terrorized for being successful, all they're going to do is move. Wealth moves nowadays. Wealth moves, and they have the means to move. And all you're going to do is devastate your city.
Yeah. Yeah. I agree. I mean, look, if crime's up and taxes are going up and regulation, is you're just being choked by regulation. I mean, eventually you're gonna move out. You're out of there. And they won't leave overnight. It's gonna be a slow roll. You're just gonna be slowly like kind of like pulling back until there's nothing left and it's not recognizable from what it was. It's
Yeah,
okay to
Mike.
care about
Mike, I
social
think it's like
issues
compound
and be
interest.
pro-business.
Mike, I think, sorry to interrupt you, but I think it's like compound interest, right? Because what happens is you lose a few people, but the 10% pay 90% of the tax. So you have to raise the tax to make up the gap, and then it just accelerates, right? It's like an avalanche. It just picks up steam as it comes downhill.
Mhm. Mhm. So, yeah,
Do you,
I was saying, it's we can care about social issues. We can care about, being able to fund all these things, but you can also be pro-business. You don't have to hurt one to help the other. And I feel like that's the direction of a lot of these more liberal, big cities.
I agree.
do you notice that there's a trend of these businesses forming in untraditional big cities like Austin, Miami, Nashville, and soon, hopefully, Detroit? I think Detroit's already on the rise for many businesses coming here. But what are your thoughts on that when they're leaving big places like LA, Seattle, New York to form in these smaller
It's
cities?
straightforward. Look what they have in common. Every place you just listed outside Detroit, which hopefully Detroit will do the same, has 0% tax. There's no state tax, no state income tax. Every place you listed, Austin, Miami, Tennessee, Nashville, no income tax. It's exactly what we're saying. Ultimately, they are going. If Michigan was smart, they would do the same thing. You want to attract them, incentivize them. They will come. You'll make the money up from the sales tax, from the property tax, from all the other taxes that the employees will pay. But if you want business to come, you need to incentivize them to come because money has the ability to move, especially nowadays. And every place you listed has one thing in common: 0% state tax.
Mhm. Mhm. I mean, I moved to Florida myself just because of that. Taxes matter, quality of life matters. Just feeling like you're respected by the state, right, matters. And we all know the government doesn't care about us, right? But when you feel that, hey, like this, like Florida cares about me. They want me to be successful. They want me to thrive. They want me to live here. And you're naturally going to gravitate towards someone that loves you more than the person that you're with that doesn't love you, which happens to be state of Michigan.
Well, let's hope Detroit's on that trend and we see the economic growth here and also the 0% state interest tax or income tax, excuse me.
Amen.
Hmm.
And moving on to our
Would love to
final
come back.
topic, we would welcome you back, Mike.
I would love
Uh,
to have him back.
I don't think there's a day that
I'm
goes
serious.
on that Shai doesn't mention
I'm
you.
dead serious. It's not the same. It's not the same. That is true,
I
by the
don't.
way. It's kind of
Yeah.
creepy, but yeah.
Look like now I feel wanted. You see, Jessica, he played right into what I was talking about.
This goes back to his conspiracy theory issue from when he was a kid, but no, we have to send him back to therapy. We'll talk about it
Yeah,
another time.
Shaya and I had the same uncle, so
Send Shia your bill.
We can with different results from whatever happened though. Sorry, Jessica, you're supposed to control us.
yeah.
This
This
is
I
is
not
kind of
our
think
fault.
it's
It's
more
your
fun.
fault.
I'm not trying to
Sarah
control
would never
anyone.
let us talk like this.
Watch this podcast get the
Sarah's like,
most
all right,
views.
moving on.
Watch this. We'll get the most views on this podcast. Watch.
I like that.
Okay.
I like that.
Final topic. The DOJ pushes to revive obscenity prosecution task force. Senator Jim Banks is urging the Department of Justice to revive the obscenity prosecution task force focused on explicit online content, arguing that internet culture has pushed society into dangerous territory when it comes to pornography and sexually explicit material. As explicit content becomes more normalized and accessible online, especially to younger audiences, where should the line be drawn? Where should the line be? Excuse me. Where should the line between free speech regulation and public protection actually be drawn?
This is a lot all in one same. This is huge. We're both parents, right? We're both fathers. And we talked about this last week, right? Free speech is huge. If you're an adult, do whatever you want, but it's the kids. And the more I thought about that, Shy, after you said it, the more like it just kept like snowballing. And you're right, like we have to protect these kids before it's too late. And then you create addictions and no ways to go back from it. So I don't think that we could pretend like this doesn't have an impact on our kids or their future. And I'm for it. It's crazy that this came up after we were talking about this last week with the gambling, with those gambling apps, or a couple of weeks ago. So it's nice to see. It's a breath of fresh air, to see that they care about the kids, you know, up in that level.
Yeah, I was going to say something very similar. We talked about this a few weeks ago with the gambling apps, and to me, free speech doesn't start until you're old enough to buy a pack of cigarettes or to vote. I mean, we have so many restrictions on what kids can do, except for when it comes to the internet, and it makes no sense to me because to me, giving a kid a pack of smokes is a lot less dangerous than exposing them to all of the things that they see online and all of the people they can communicate with online. So. I think it's absurd that there's nothing in place. I think we need to get something in place as quickly as possible. um, I think that the fact that kids nowadays can go online and be exposed to things that in our lifetime we could have never even imagined. Like we couldn't have even drawn that up in a worst case scenario, and they're able to simply have that pop up on their phone in their hand. I think it's critical that a law gets passed, and I think it should be a requirement that social media platforms and really kind of the internet at large has restrictions on people who are underage. Once you get over the legal age, to me, you're an adult, do whatever you want. Obviously, you can't cross in the line into threatening someone else or imposing, stepping on other people's civil liberties. But up to that point, you're an adult. I don't care. But for kids, we talked about this. It's something that I mean, Mike. I also thought about it after we talked, and I just got more and more riled up as after the conversation we had a few weeks ago on this podcast. It's crazy to me that we are allowing kids to get damaged the way we are when we have laws in place to prevent that with so many other things.
Yeah, yeah, they shouldn't be like collateral damage of unregulated internet. And this bill that was disbanded that he's reviving, it's been put away for a while, right? It's not like
It
two or
has,
three
yeah,
years. It's like over a decade. So it's
I
a whole
think it's
different internet world. I mean, back then it was was bad, and now it's what, maybe times 50 worse.
yeah, at least.
yeah, I think it's from the George W. Bush era that it started. They started disbanding it. But from my opinion, I think this is almost in line with hate speech. As my former career, I've seen what radicalization does when you're into these subcontents of obscenities, And then you lead into the dark web, and then you start prosecuting people that are distributing child pornography and things that just cause people to get radicalized. But I think the real issue, in my opinion, would be to hold social media platforms accountable, these um, internet companies accountable. And I think that would stop a lot of the crime if they can start vetting what goes on, because that's the same thing as hate speech. It continues to radicalize people, put them in an echo chamber. But if you start holding that these groups like Facebook and Instagram and X are accountable, then they can regulate that speech and regulate what's put on their platforms. But I think until that, in my opinion, um, I don't think there'll be much change, because there'll always be another place for this content to go. And I think they profit off of it the more
The
that's
arg-
engaged. But what do you guys think?
but it's just wouldn't the argument the argument against that would be it would just push it into the dark web where there would be no control at all. Not to say that that wouldn't help, because I think, like you, like when you have a lock on the front door, you'll have less people trying to break in. So I think it would help, right? However, I think we could take it a step further. From my perspective, if you're underage and you have a phone, it should have a filter, and that should be mandatory. It should be mandatory from Apple and Android. If you have a smartphone, you are required to have a filter on it unless you upload an ID or however you want to use some form of identification. People don't want to upload ID because it get hacked. You know, however we would be able to verify that someone is now 18 or 21 or whatever the age is, uh, they need to verify that they're overage to have access to anything that's not educational or entertainment that doesn't cross the line. We're destroying a generation, literally. And Mike said, we're around little kids. We have little kids, and w- watching this happen is we need to do something about it, and we need to do something about it now.
We
Mike, what
still
are
need
your
those
thoughts?
5 million adult signatures.
How many do we need?
We said we're going to get 5 million adults to sign, or parents to sign off. I don't know if you remember that from a couple of weeks ago.
I don't think it would be that hard. Can we start a
I don't think
petition
so.
online to do that?
Yeah, I think we
So
can grow it pretty quickly too.
Jessica, can you set that up for us? Can you submit one of those like whitehouse.gov? You know how you have those online petitions?
Done.
I think you
After this
need 25
podcast.
million people to sign it for the White House to have to answer. 5 million? I'm not sure what the number is.
I think it's like 250,000 to that forces a response on change.org.
Okay.
Yeah.
Jessica, please, after this, set it up and Mike and I will spread it.
Will do. Look at this podcast leading to social change. You guys are killing it.
Exactly.
Is there anything else that you guys want to talk about? Otherwise, we can wrap up this lovely Thursday afternoon.
No, I think that's it for me today. Some really good topics. Shout out Natasha.
Shout out Natasha.
Thanks, Natasha.
It's our weekly shout out to Natasha. Okay, guys, let's say over under whether or not Sarah hears this and brings up the topic next week.
I think she's gonna hear it just to listen to how Jessica did, so that she can like steal some of her tactics. Um, I think both are great hosts and contribute a lot. But she's not gonna do it to listen to us talking. She's gonna do it to listen to Jessica, and then as a byproduct of that, she's gonna hear the story and mention it the next time she's in.
Okay, so scoreboard, you're saying she will.
She will, yeah.
Okay. All right. Jessica, what's your bet?
I think she won't. I think she's a busy mom. She's on vacation and she has a lot of other podcasts to keep recording and keep it moving. But I'm a big fan of Sarah. So Sarah, if you're listening, I'm rooting for you. But I'm being realistic.
Okay,
I like how you
Natasha, what's
hedged
your
it.
vote?
She hedged the bet with a compliment. I like it.
Yeah, what's Natasha's bet? All right. All right. So 2 no's. Mike, yes. I'm going to vote with Mike. I think that she will not pass. I think she's going to force herself to listen no matter what to see how it went. And I think she will definitely bring it up. So we will see
For
who
sure.
is right this time next week.
Can't wait.
All right, guys.
All right, guys.
It's been fun. Same time, same place, Michael.
Sounds good. I'll be there.
Bye, guys.
Bye.